Well, as you know, President Akufo-Addo expects the removal of majority of the COVID-19 restrictions to aid economic recovery in the coming months. Now, this follows the reopening of all land and sea borders effective today. The president said this when he addressed the country on measures being taken to combat the spread of COVID-19 in the country. He, however, made a passionate appeal to Ghanaians to vaccinate.
Ghanaians who have not received the jab, I urge you to take it. To those listening to the propaganda by the conspiracy theorists and those who are still skeptical about the efficacy of the vaccine, it has been a year since my wife and I got vaccinated. It has not disrupted our physical well-being. Neither has it caused us to be sick. We are, touch wood, hale and hearty, like the other 13.1 million Ghanaians who have been vaccinated. With countries in the ECOWAS community, especially in our neighboring countries, presently like us, recording very low levels of infections, and having significant numbers of our people vaccinated, and on the advice of the National COVID-19 Task Force and the health experts, I've taken the decision to revise the COVID-19 restrictions enacted under EI 64. At this point, I want to express the great gratitude of the nation to the leadership and membership of the Ghana Health Service, to all other health workers, and to members of the National COVID-19 Task Force for the outstanding work they have done in bringing us this far. Ours has been an all-inclusive national effort, including the security services, public and private sector agencies, religious and chieftaincy institutions, charitable organizations, all of whom have helped in bringing us this far. I hope I'll be forgiven if I single out the Church of Pentecost, the Catholic Church, and the COVID-19 Private Sector Fund for special praise. They all demonstrated exceptional love of country. So, from tomorrow, Monday, 28th March, the wearing of face masks is no longer mandatory. I encourage all of you, though, to continue to maintain enhanced hand hygiene practices and avoid overcrowded gatherings. All in-person activities, such as those that take place in churches, mosques, conferences, workshops, private parties and events, cinemas and theaters, as long as the audience and all participants are fully vaccinated. Hand washing and hand sanitizing points should be made available at these venues. Outdoor functions at sporting events, entertainment spots, political rallies and funerals may resume at full capacity, again, as long as in the importation of the virus into our country, especially as our first cases of the virus were imported through the Kotoka International Airport, KIA. Currently, the Kotoka International Airport only allows fully vaccinated passengers who are in possession of a 72-hour negative PCR test result prior to embarkation and have a negative antigen test on arrival, entry into the country. Ghanaian citizens and foreign residents in Ghana who are unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated currently are given waivers by the Ghana Health Service to allow them entry into the country through the Kotoka International Airport. They must also have a 72-hour negative PCR test result prior to embarkation, take an antigen test on arrival, and are offered vaccination. From tomorrow, Monday, 28th March, fully vaccinated travelers into Ghana will not take PCR tests from the country of embarkation to allow them entry into the country through the KIA, and will not be tested on arrival. Citizens and foreign residents in Ghana who are not fully vaccinated would, however, need to provide a negative PCR test result of not more than 48 hours.
President Akufo-Addo there, but what has influenced the president's optimism about the economy's recovery based on these measures that you just heard? JoyNews has more in this report.
The closure of the country's land borders did affect the movement of persons to our neighboring countries, which brought its own challenges to the economy. But with this review, that could support some sectors of the economy. This because some trading activities across the borders will now resume, as well as those in the border towns of the country. The mandatory COVID-19 test at the country's airports also affected visits, even for those that have been vaccinated in some cases. Therefore, this could result in pickup in passenger numbers to Ghana. We should also not forget about the strict COVID-19 restrictions and observance of protocols also affected a lot of event organizers, restaurants and pubs in the country. So with this, a lot of businesses that are operating in this area could rebound strongly and operate at full capacity, which could impact on jobs, profits, and payment of taxes to the state. But as we get excited by this move, there are some businesses and entrepreneurs that are worried. Have you thought about the local firms that are in the face mask business and the employment opportunity it offered to those who are in the mask retail business as well? What about those who are in the sanitizer business and the buckets that are used for hand washing at public places? What will happen to them based on the review and the mandatory COVID-19 restrictions?
Well, let's now cross over to our correspondent at the border areas. Ivy Setoji joins us on phone from the Aplau border, as well as Loteria, who is an Adum News correspondent who is currently at the Elubo border. He's also going to be joining us via phone. But let's start off with Ivy. Ivy, you've been there for a while now. What's the atmosphere like after the president's announcement yesterday?
Well, the atmosphere is that of excitement in Aplau, especially the border, where the residents are happy, excited about the news of the reopening of the borders announced by the president last night. They are saying that over the 2 years that the borders were closed, they have been in distress. They were not able to do anything. They were not able to go about their normal duties. Most of them, according to them, rely on the border businesses, that is, buy and sell from Togo and Ghana to feed their families. So the closure of the border made them stay at home for all these years without doing anything. So it's a good news for them to have the borders open so they can go back to their normal businesses, especially the youth who have been home for the past 2 years. But one thing they are not happy about is the fact that they have restricted them. The immigration have restricted them from using some of the unapproved rules, which are closer to some of the residents. And they said some of these unapproved rules, you can easily get access to Lome or other towns where you can do your business quickly and get back to Aplau. And some of them, they can just cross just some 2 or 5 minutes there in Togo, and then they buy quickly and get back. But they have been asked not to use those unapproved rules, or they will be arrested. But for now, residents are happy. They are also having issues with the no vaccination, no entry. They said the government should do something about it because it is not everyone that have been vaccinated or have the card. So that issue will also disturb them in a way. But they are excited about the opening of the land.
I'd be grateful that you could join us from the Aplau border. Let's now turn our attention to the Elubo border, where Lord, our Adum FM correspondent, joins us. Lord, grateful that you could join us on this program. You know, the announcement was made yesterday. You could imagine the volumes of traders who plied the Elubu border this morning and the course of the day. What have you been seeing, and what can you report from where you're standing?
Yeah. At the moment, we are currently at the Elubu border, and it's all excitement gathered upon the announcement by the president that all land borders in the country should be reopened for businesses. At the moment, when we go to the border, we saw the immigration officers and the custom officers and the port heads who have been redundant for a while now, doing their usual work as they do their usual mandate. But the unfortunate thing is that our brothers from Côte d'Ivoire borders still remain closed. So this made some Ghanaians who were trying to enter into Côte d'Ivoire got stranded. They stood and waited and waited and waited. They didn't have access to enter Côte d'Ivoire, so they have to return back, painful or sorrowful, back to Ghana. In an interview, in an interaction with them, what they said is that they are pleading with the government to collaborate with the counterparts at Côte d'Ivoire to ensure that the Côte d'Ivoire borders will reopen, because if Ghana opens its border and Côte d'Ivoire borders remain closed, then it's still the same. There's no way businesses will go at a level. They are pleading with authorities the Ivorian authorities to ensure that their borders will be open.
Indeed, especially where we are currently, a landlocked, nation, having to share borders with Ivory Coast, that of Togo as well, and Burkina Faso. But we're grateful that I could, share with us the state of affairs at the various borders. He's a Aduma FM correspondent. But joining me to discuss the impact on the ease and restrictions on intra-African trade and what it means for AFTA moving forward is Programs Director for CAT International, Kosi Appiah-Dumako. We're grateful that you could join us. With land and sea borders now opened, help us quantify the impact on intra-African trade. Appiah-Dumako, if you could hear me, would want you to help us quantify the impact of the President's decision to open land and sea borders on intra-African trade. We've heard from our correspondents from the various border towns. What's your assessment of this announcement? I'm afraid we have lost Appiah-Dumako, which we'll try and raise the line to get him on his assessment from the perspective of CAT International. But you're still watching The Marketplace. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to The Marketplace. Well, let's now get on the lines once again to get in touch with Appiah-Dumako of CAT International to help us assess the impact of the President's directive to reopen land and sea borders on intra-African trade. We're grateful that you could reconnect. First of all, your assessment, because we've already touched down with our correspondent at the various borders, and they have shared with us their experiences with what the traders are telling them. From your perspective, CAT International, what can you help us appreciate the impact of this on intra-African trade?
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Am I visible? Is the image output clear?
You're loud and clear. You're loud and clear.
Okay. So I think the opening of the border is going to increase the volume of trade, especially on our land borders. Since COVID came, the borders were closed. It means that a lot of people could not come in by road from other countries. Now that the borders have been opened, people will be able to start moving goods in. And that could help on both sides, both goods going out and goods coming in. That could increase our volume of trade, and we can have a very good trade balance at the end of the year.
But do you think the 2-year drought of closures has given Ghana space enough to improve reforms to aid intra-African trade?
I think a lot of things account to Ghana's ability to produce and trade among itself. The closing of the border in 2020 meant that Ghana has to start to domesticate get most of its own production instead of relying on external imports. And we saw how our manufacturing sector was very, very helpful in producing things that we need for ourselves. And so we now have the capacity. I think it was COVID has in it the good side and the positive side. I think as a nation, we've managed to hold the COVID at the positive side. And so we are now better placed as a country to be able to produce most of the things that we need here. The only challenge here is that if we have not been able to reach an economy of scale and the local business environment makes our cost of production expensive, then the people will start looking at other markets of bringing finished products into the country. That is where we might be having an issue.
Indeed. Well, we have been interacting with a correspondent at various border towns, and they've raised concerns. I mean, they've re-echoed the concerns of some traders and residents who spoke to them regarding the fact that Ivory Coast and other border towns have not opened their borders due to COVID-19 restrictions, so that we could have a situation where the very directive by the president could hit a snag when it comes to trade inflows. Don't you think this could really have an impact moving forward on the continental free trade, especially when we are seeing several member states, signatories, yet to decide on whether or not to open their borders?
Yeah, that is true. You know, borders are two sides. So if Ghana opens inside, another side is closed. Movement of goods and people will still be affected. But I think ECOWAS has a timeline for countries to reopen their borders. And I think Ghana might have taken the lead. Others are going to open up. And now that Ghana has opened, others, our neighboring countries like Togo, Ivory Coast, all of them will also open because they want to trade. And once you allow goods to move, you help your economy to grow.
Indeed, and we'll see how that goes. Apia Edumaku, we're grateful that you could join us with your analysis on this. Here's the Project Director of CATS International. Let's now talk Treasury bills, because government's bill sale fell massively by 66.8%, despite the increase in the policy rate of the Bank of Ghana to 17% and the announcement of fiscal measures by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. According to auctioning results, government was only able to secure a little above 733 million cedis from a whopping target of 2.21 billion cedis. Charles Nsinyeboa has been looking through the figures of the tender held last Friday and now reports.
This is coming as a shock because of the expectations that the Treasury market will respond positively to the increase in the Bank of Ghana's base lending rate, same as the reaction to the foreign exchange market. However, investors did not react, as total amount purchased did not even meet half of the targeted amount of 2.21 billion cedis. Perhaps the investors, largely banks, believe the increase in the yield of the short-term securities did not correspond to the surge in the policy rate. All the Treasury instruments were sold below the policy rate of 17%. A cursory look at the results showed that the investors who bought the T-bills rather went in for the 91-day and one-year bills because their interest yield were relatively better. A little above 434 million cedis was mobilized from the sale of the 91-day T-bills at an interest rate of 14.1%, while 222.37 million cedis was secured from the auctioning of the one-year bill at a yield of 17.10%. 72.65 million cedis was, however, mobilized from the sale of the 182-day T-bills at an interest rate of 14.51%. Despite the decline in the sale of the T-bills, it is the hope that the situation will change when this week's auctioning is held on Friday.
Now, as global supply chain disruptions emerge from the Ukraine-Russia war, Policy and Research Bureau of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana is raising an alarm over impending food crisis in Ghana. CEO of the Chamber, Anthony Morrison, joins us for more. Anthony, you fear for an impending food crisis, citing a disrupted global food supply chain due to the war in Ukraine. Share with us the facts that you have to prove this particular warning.
Yes, thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, the Chamber have been following these developing trends for some time now, and we have followed up with quite recently the global trends
All right.
Even though we have seen the effects of COVID, and if you take out the Pantry for Food and Jobs, between 2017 and 2019, the PFJ did very well with regards to food productivity. If you take maize, rice, we have increased astronomically. But if you take the 2020-2021, you realize that our productivity has slumped. And it's very important that we take a very good look at the figures as it's been presented to us. Yes, we have Ukraine and Russia providing 30 to 40% of the world's urea and ammonia. And if you look at it very well, the combinations also that are required for some of the macronutrients and the micronutrients are also coming from this same region. Now, the other challenge is the current state protectionism by various companies to protect food productivity and also food exports from their country. We have seen countries that have actually banned food exports from their country, and we think that some of these things are going to have major challenges with regards to food productivity in Ghana.
So in just under a minute, Anthony, for the purposes of time, what must be done in the short to medium term to remedy any such occurrence?
Yes, so we must actually resource a lot of commercial farms here in Ghana to actually produce or expand their productivity. And also we need to look at the local content for agricultural productivity in Ghana. As in, we need to look at the organic fertilizer production. Currently, as we speak, there are about just 4 major companies that are producing organic fertilizer in Ghana. The rest are all imported. We can't continue to import our way out of this. We need to unskill our people and increase productivity so that we can feed this country as we have to.
Indeed, Anthony Morrison, as always, we're grateful for your input there. Here's the CEO of the Agribusiness Chamber. That's how we end the Marketplace. I'm Charles Aite. Many thanks for watching.